My name is Emma. I am 29 years old and live in a small town in Massachusetts where I work as a school janitor. Every day I wake up before sunrise, pull on my work boots, and walk to the school with a thermos of tea in my hand. I clean the classrooms before the children arrive, mopping the floors, emptying the trash, and wiping the windows. I do my job quietly. The teachers smile and say, "Thank you," but no one talks much. That's okay. I am used to the silence. I met Daniel 3 years ago at a small grocery store. I was buying a few things after work. My face was still flushed from cleaning chemicals and my hands were dry. When I dropped a box of cereal, Daniel picked it up for me. He smiled and said, "Rough day." I laughed a little and replied, "Always." After that, I saw him a few more times, sometimes at the store, sometimes near the bus stop. One day he asked, "Do you want to grab coffee?" I said yes. It felt simple and easy. Daniel worked at a hardware store. He was quiet, much like me. He didn't talk much, but when he did, he was kind. He asked short questions and looked people in the eye. I liked that about him. On our third coffee date, he told me, "I like being around you. You don't make too much noise." It sounded funny, but I understood exactly what he meant. After 6 months, we started seeing each other more often. He came over for dinner and I went to his place on weekends. One day he gave me a copy of his key and I moved in the following month. It was a small apartment above a barber shop, 2 rooms, an old kitchen, and one window that didn't open right. But I didn't care. I was happy just to be with him. The first few months were calm. We cooked simple dinners and watched TV together. Sometimes we went for walks near the river. Daniel liked fishing, even if he never caught much. I would watch him from the shore while drinking my tea, thinking, "This is nice. Maybe this is love." But then little things started to change. He stopped asking how my day was. He would come home, say a brief hello, and sit on the couch, watching TV until bedtime. I cooked alone. I cleaned alone. I went to bed before him most nights. He didn't say much, and he didn't ask much. At first, I thought it was normal that people simply get comfortable and quiet. But over time, it started to feel like I wasn't even there. I felt like a part of the house rather than a person, just something in the background. One night I cooked his favorite meal, baked chicken and corn. I wore a nice dress and lit candles waiting for him to come home. When he walked in, he looked at the table and said, "Smells good," then immediately turned on the TV. He didn't say I looked nice. He didn't hug me. He didn't even smile. We ate dinner in silence. I looked at him across the table and wondered, does he even see me? After dinner, I tried to talk. I asked, "Do you still love me, Daniel?" He looked at me and asked, "Why would you ask that?" I told him it was because he didn't show it. He looked away and said, "I come home every day. I pay the rent. Isn't that love?" I didn't answer. I stood up and washed the dishes while he sat on the couch and picked up the remote. Later that night, I sat on the edge of the bed while he remained in the living room. I looked around the bedroom. My clothes were in the closet. My toothbrush was in the bathroom and my jacket hung near the door. I lived there, but I didn't feel at home. The next day at work, I moved slowly. My arms felt heavy. A teacher named Mrs. Nolan noticed and said, "Rough morning." I gave a small smile and nodded. I didn't want to talk. I just wanted to finish my job and go home. That weekend, Daniel went out with his friends without telling me until the last minute. When I mentioned he hadn't told me, he snapped, "Do I need to ask for permission?" I told him no, but that it was nice to feel considered. He just looked at me and said, "You always need something." I didn't reply. He left and I stayed home alone, staring at the wall. The following days were the same, cold words and quiet dinners. I tried to talk, but he always claimed he was too tired or asked if we could not do this right now. Finally, I made a small cocoa cake and put candles on the table. When he came home, I told him I made it for us. He looked at it and said, "I don't like sweet stuff. You know that." I reminded him that he used to eat it. "Not anymore," he replied. I put the cake in the fridge, went to the bathroom, and closed the door. I sat on the floor. I didn't cry. I just sat there, quiet and still. I wasn't angry anymore. I was just tired. Tired of trying, tired of waiting, and tired of feeling like I didn't matter. The next morning, I packed a small bag. When Daniel came home, I was standing near the door. He asked what was going on, and I told him I was going to stay with a friend because I felt alone. He laughed a little and said, "That's silly. We're fine." I looked at him and said, "No, Daniel, I'm not fine." He insisted he hadn't done anything wrong. "That's the problem," I said, and I walked out. My friend Laura took me in. That night, for the first time in a long time, I slept well. In the morning, I went to work as usual. Inside, I felt strange. I didn't know where I belonged anymore, but I also felt lighter. There was no TV noise, no cold dinners, and no heavy silence between us. I missed Daniel, but I didn't miss the feeling of being invisible. Daniel didn't call for the first 2 days. On the third day, he messaged, "Are you okay?" I didn't answer. A few days later, he wrote, "那没有关系." He's I wasn't ready to hear his voice yet. I started taking long walks, watching families in their homes, wishing for someone who actually wanted to talk to me at the end of the day. One afternoon, Daniel was waiting for me outside the school. His eyes looked tired. He asked if we could talk, and we agreed to meet the next day at the park. When we met, the wind was cold and the trees were bare. He sat beside me and said, "I didn't know things were so bad. You never said you were this unhappy." I turned to him and said, "I tried. You didn't listen." He lowered his head. "You're right." He explained that he thought he was doing okay by working and paying bills. I told him, "That's not love. That's a roommate. I want someone who looks at me, who knows when I'm not okay, someone who tries." He admitted he didn't know how. "Then you should have asked," I replied. He was quiet for a long time before saying, "I want to change. I'm scared because I realized I took everything for granted." I stood up and told him I didn't know what would happen. I told him I still loved him, but that love wasn't enough. I needed time. Weeks passed. Daniel didn't push or beg. He sent one message a week checking on me. He dropped off things I had forgotten: a scarf, a new sponge for my shoes, and a small jar of peach jam, my favorite. Laura told me he was even watering the plant I left behind because it reminded him of me. Eventually, we met at the park again. He brought a picnic and told me he had started seeing a counselor once a week to help him understand his feelings and communicate better. "I don't want to lose you, Emma," he said. "But even if I do, I want to become a better person for you and for myself." Tears filled my eyes because for the first time he was actually doing the work, not just talking. I didn't move back in right away, but I started to visit. We cooked together and walked by the river, and this time he held my hand without being asked. One evening, back at the apartment, I noticed my plant was green and strong. Daniel brought me tea and said I looked peaceful. I told him I felt better, but a part of me still wondered why it took me leaving for him to finally see me. I spent 2 months at Laura's. During that time, I changed too. I spoke up more. I said what I needed and how I felt. I wasn't quiet anymore, and this time Daniel listened. One Saturday, we sat on our usual bench by the river. Daniel took a folded note from his pocket and read it to me. His hand shook as he apologized for making me feel small and promised he would never go back to the silence. "I will always try now," he said. "If you come back, I will hold your hand every day. If you don't, I will still be thankful you helped me grow." I had waited years to hear those words, but I wasn't the same woman who had begged for them. I was stronger now. I told him his words meant a lot. That night, I lay on Laura's couch and asked myself what I wanted today. The answer was clear. I wanted peace, to be seen and to be loved, not just lived with. I walked to Daniel's place the next day. When he opened the door, I told him, "I'm not coming back because I miss you. I'm coming back because I believe in who you're becoming." I moved back slowly, taking my time to unpack. Daniel kept changing. He smiled more and talked more. He started saying things like, "I'm proud of you," or "How are you feeling today?" It wasn't an overnight transformation, but the effort was there, and that mattered. A few months later, we visited my parents. Daniel brought my mom flowers and helped my dad fix a door. On the way home, he held my hand and said, "You make me want to be better." I just smiled. That night, I watered my plant on the windowsill. Its leaves were bright and full. As I looked at it, I thought of how far we had come, sharing our journey here on Learn English by Stories. I whispered a quiet thank you to the silence for everything it had taught me.